Hey, what's going on, YouTube? It's the Dual Threat Podcast here, your daily news source for all things sports. I'm Drew. This is Jake. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Comment any differing opinions and hit the like button if you like what you see. We're going to get straight into our predictions video for this upcoming weekend. We've got four pretty important games for this upcoming weekend. And so, Jake, you want to start us off with our first one?
Yeah, so the first game we're going to look at is the newly scheduled number 13 BYU versus the number 18 Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. I've been on the Chant wave for a lot of this season. I just love seeing that teal field and those fighting Chants come out and win some football games. Both teams are 9-0 going into this game. The line right now is -10 towards BYU. I feel like that's probably a pretty solid line. I can't really lean either way. Neither team has really beaten anyone significant, but BYU specifically has been just blowing out everyone. Zach Wilson's just looked incredible. He's that dark horse for the Heisman for BYU, the quarterback. He's got almost 3,000 passing yards in 9 games. He's looking great. BYU's looking great. But BYU needed to bolster their schedule to hopefully influence the playoff committee. And so, adding an undefeated Coastal Carolina, I don't really know if that bolsters their resume the way that it should. But the team is undefeated. BYU by 10 is the line. Coastal Carolina has looked good this season. Obviously, they're undefeated. They have that win over Kansas in week 1. Grayson McCall is the quarterback there. He's had a really good season. He's got almost 2,000 passing yards on the season, 20 touchdowns, only 1 interception. I don't have any strong leans in this game aside from, just rooting for the Chants. Drew, what do you think about this game?
So this is actually pretty interesting. I look at Coastal Carolina versus Kansas in the first week, and I know the first week kind of was a bunch of people getting their feet underneath them, but they beat probably the worst Power 5 team by 15 points, 38-23. It was the most points Kansas scored. It was the least amount of points that Kansas opponent has scored, and it was the closest game Kansas has had this year. And so that, to me, kind of shows that it's hard to put you in the top 10 if you're undefeated when you can't even, beat Kansas, the worst Power 5 team, by more than 4 touchdowns or whatever. Because I can guarantee you every Big 12 team has beat them by at least 25 or something like that. So that, to me, shows a lot about Coastal, as well as I think if you look at it, Boise State is 7-1, and I can't say that Boise State is a worse team than Coastal Carolina. I think, in my hypothetical mind, if you were to put Boise State in Coastal Carolina's place, I think they would have the same record, probably with bigger win margins. And BYU beat them 51-17 at Boise State. So to me, I think this game is probably going to get out of hand. I think BYU, if they are as good as I think they are, I think they're going to try and run away with the score so they can look good for that committee on next Tuesday. And so I see them running up the score if they're as good as I think they are. I don't see any way Coastal Carolina wins this game, in my personal opinion. I think Zach Wilson is very good. Coastal Carolina has not played an offense this dominant. They haven't played a defense this good. We talked about that in our video yesterday, that Coastal Carolina BYU has a underrated defense. And so it's going to be interesting to see this game at 4:30 kickoff, but I've got BYU. I know Jake has Coastal Carolina, not by facts, just by
I just want Coastal Carolina.
Yeah.
I want them so bad.
And so, I think whoever Sorry, go ahead.
7-1-1 against the spread. Coastal Carolina is. You cannot bet against the Chants. Come on.
Yeah, well, I understand why they're 7-1-1 against the spread when they play teams like South Alabama and Georgia State. But anyways, yeah, I think whoever wins this game probably jumps into the top 10 just because I think the committee has been putting teams there that, because there's not really anybody else to put there. And I think everybody in our rankings for the past few weeks have had BYU in their top 10. So, I mean, even if Coastal Carolina does end up winning that game, to me, that's a top 10 win for Coastal Carolina. And I would put them in my top 10 just so they can show that they are a top 10 team if they beat another undefeated top 15 team. And so, yeah, I've got BYU. Jake's got the Chants. BYU's favored by 10. That is a 4:30 kickoff. All right. Next game we've got is Indiana, Wisconsin. This game has a significance in the Big Ten if Ohio State's game either this week or next week gets canceled. If Indiana does win this game, they will be a one-loss Big Ten championship contender. And if they win that game, they might be in the top 4 if they end up winning out. Ohio State's their only loss, and Ohio State only has 5 or 6 wins, and they're 5-0, 6-0. And so this game has a significance. Wisconsin is 2-1. They've had a lot of cancellations throughout the year. They are favored by 14 in this game by 2 touchdowns. So they're not Big Ten eligible. So if you are an Indiana fan, you need to win this game. This is not really a game that needs to be won by Wisconsin. It's just, I mean, you always want to win games that you can. So they're favored by 14. But if you're an Indiana fan, you want to win this game. If you're a fan of A&M, Cincinnati, BYU, Coastal Carolina, you want Indiana to lose so they have no chance of getting in the playoffs, even if Ohio State's game gets canceled and Indiana wins out, they might get in the playoffs. So what do you think about this game specifically, Jake, with Indiana versus Wisconsin?
It is really hard to judge Wisconsin right now just because they've had so many cancellations. I mean, they've only played 3 games this year. We saw them lose to Northwestern, who we thought was decent, and then they go out and lose to Michigan State last week by 9. We saw them beat Michigan, who is god-awful this year. We saw them beat Illinois, who isn't good this year either. I have no idea how to judge Wisconsin. The line has them by 14. I don't know. I mean, that just seems kind of outrageous, but at the same time, it could easily happen. Indiana is 5-1 with wins over, as I said, god-awful Michigan. They beat Michigan State, who beat Northwestern. The Big Ten is just such a crap show this year. The only team that we know is good from the Big Ten is Ohio State, and we only really think that they're good. We don't actually know it. They're only 4-0 right now. With their big win over, Indiana theoretically, but we don't know how good Indiana is. And then their other big win is over Penn State, who has 1 win on the season. I mean, I don't know how to judge the Big Ten. I just don't think they're playing enough games. But aside from that, looking at this game, Graham Mertz has looked okay so far this year. I mean, he's thrown for 8 touchdowns in 3 games. That's not bad. But he also has 3 interceptions. He's averaging, obviously, an interception a game. Michael Penix Jr. has obviously looked great.
He's injured.
Oh, he's injured this week. Oh, okay. That maybe this line does make a little bit more sense to me now. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Big Ten, I just don't know what to expect out of the Big Ten. The Big Ten is just such a flip or flop. I mean, I feel like it's week 1 every week for the Big Ten right now, just with the way everyone plays. Like, it's so spotty. Knowing that Michael Penix Jr. is not playing, I'm definitely going to take Wisconsin, but I don't know about this line. the Big Ten is just such a crapshoot right now. But what do you think, Drew?
Yeah, I cut a little bit of that back up for Indiana, and he didn't do too great against Maryland. I mean, Maryland had like 4 interceptions, and they didn't really capitalize with their turnovers that they got because of that new quarterback. And so Michael Penix Jr. is injured. He was a great quarterback to watch. I really enjoyed him. He did very well for the time that he had. I hope he gets better and can hopefully play next year or at the next level, whatever he decides to do.
That 2-point conversion against Penn State looked incredible.
Yeah, that was really athletic. One of the more athletic things I've seen out of a quarterback this year. And I think really who the game changer is going to be is Fogle. We've talked about him on this channel before. He is a really good wide receiver. He has 700 yards, 7 touchdowns on the season. He has half of Michael Penix Jr.'s passing yards and half of his touchdowns. And so he's obviously their go-to guy when it comes to throwing the ball up and trying to get somebody open. And so with that backup quarterback, I don't know how well he's going to do with this backup. Just depends if the backup can get him the ball. But Fogle is going to be one of the playmakers of this game. And if he can get his receptions, get his yards, get his touchdowns, Indiana might stand a chance. But I've still got Wisconsin winning this game just because Michael Penix Jr. going down is a big hurt to Indiana's team, especially on a year like this. They're 5-1. Their only loss is Ohio State by 7. So yeah, I've got Wisconsin winning. I think I got Wisconsin covering. The only problem is, like you said, it's hard to judge where Wisconsin is. I mean, Mertz comes out and I think it was like 3 or 4 touchdowns in his first game, went like 23 for 24 on passing and just looked phenomenal. And then he had 3 weeks off, which really hurts a freshman quarterback. And then he throws 3 interceptions in the next 2 games. They end up losing to Michigan State. And so it's hard to say where Wisconsin is, but I still got them winning this game. And so that's going to lead us into our third game, which doesn't really seem like there's a lot of significance, but I'm going to explain why I think it's significant this weekend. And that's Alabama LSU. Alabama is a 29.5-point favorite. I think Alabama wins by 60, maybe even 70. I think this weekend is going to be an Alabama that you haven't seen before. I don't know if Mac Jones is going to be taken out of this game at any point. And I say this only because of Coach O last year with the Roll Tide What You. I think when that got out, I knew Alabama was going to win next year by 50. I still think that stands, especially with how good Alabama is this year. I've heard a lot of people on the Alabama team have like come back. They opted out for the season. They're coming back for this game. They had a few injuries that they wanted to take a few weeks off just so they could be ready for this game. So I've got Alabama by a lot more than 29.5. I think they run up the score this weekend. I think Mac Jones is still playing in the fourth quarter, which is something we haven't seen this year. And I think he'll put up some Heisman numbers as he does pretty much every week. I think Devontae Smith is going to have 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think Najee Harris is going to run the ball pretty much whenever, because the difference between A&M and A&M and Alabama is Alabama can throw and run whenever they want. A&M couldn't do that against LSU. That's why they held them to a low score to 20. I think it was only like 1 offensive touchdown, 2 field goals. And so I think Alabama runs this score up. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, so I was trying to find something to give LSU some sort of hope. There's nothing. I know that nothing's ever 100% in sports, but this is as close to 100%. Alabama's going to destroy LSU. I mean, this LSU team is horrible. This Alabama team is incredible. There's no hope for LSU. I mean, as you said, I think Alabama is going to absolutely run this score up. you said that you don't think Mac Jones is going to come out. Personally, I think that he might. He might even come out after the first quarter when they're already up by 45. The only reason I say that is because of what happened to Tua last year in that Mississippi State game, and I think that Nick Saban will have that in the back of his mind early on in this game because of how much of a blowout it's going to be. But I do think Alabama is just going to keep their foot on the gas the entire time. I think that Alabama's third and fourth stringers might be in there in the second half the entire time, and I think they will still have their foot on the gas. Alabama is going to absolutely dismantle LSU. There is absolutely no hope. The over-under is only 67.5. I think Alabama scores more than that. I think LSU might score 0. This might be a shutout for Alabama. There's just no hope for LSU. I don't even know how to dive into this. LSU showed a glimmer of hope on offense in the future against A&M. I think A&M has a top 5 defense, Drew. We've talked about this a little bit. A&M, Alabama, and Notre Dame are the only 3 teams that really seem to have outstanding defenses right now. It's Clemson every now and then, in my opinion. But I see nothing going LSU's way. The game is in Baton Rouge. If that means anything, I don't really think it does. It's a 7:00 kick. Yeah, this is going to be rough for LSU, rough for everyone down there in Louisiana. I recommend just hitting the bars immediately. You do not want to be sober for this game if you're an LSU fan. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's really nothing, except for it's at LSU, but that just might be even more embarrassing to play at your own place and just get curb stomped like I think you're going to get curb stomped. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting game to watch for sure. I think we've both got Alabama pretty big, so.
It's not even a think they're going to get curb stomped. It's a you will get curb stomped. It's going to be bad. But anyway, that leads us into the last game. Texas A&M takes on Auburn at Auburn at 11 a.m. Still upset that it's an 11 a.m. kick. But Drew, what do you think about this game?
So A&M is favored by 6.5 after coming off that win against LSU 20-7. Auburn just lost to Alabama 13-58, maybe I want to say.
Not 58. 42.
What was it?
42.
Oh. Well,
yeah.
It's a lot less than I thought it was.
Well, but Alabama took their foot off the gas. They're not going to do that this weekend against LSU.
Yeah, I agree. So Auburn just lost to Alabama pretty big. That's a pretty common theme this year. A&M just beat LSU, their rival technically. They're favored by 6.5. It's at Auburn. Bottom line, Kellen Mond has to show up. Auburn's defense is going to be able to stop Isaiah Spiller, and they're going to be able to do exactly what LSU did last week. They're going to just put 6 people rushing. They're going to put 6 people on the front line, and they're going to make Kellen Mond make plays. And that is what you got to do against A&M, especially after last week. I feel bad because Kellen Mond was playing some of the best football of his career, from Florida to like South Carolina, I think it was right before the break. And then that 3-week break hit, and now he didn't look good against LSU. I'm hoping most of that is just rust, and he comes out and plays well against Auburn.
Hopefully it was just weather related too.
Yeah, the weather should be better this weekend, I believe. So
it's going to be sunny at 56 at 11 a.m. So,
yeah. So the other side of the ball, Bo Nix, Tank Bigsby is really good. One of the best freshmen in college football, in my opinion. Bo Nix, not one of the best quarterbacks, in my opinion. I think Bo Nix and Kellen Mond are actually very similar in the fact that they're they'll make incredible throws that you would just not see in a million years from an average quarterback, and then they'll not hit a pass on a little screen pass on 3rd and 3, and it's just mind-boggling to watch these two quarterbacks and how inconsistent they are. I mean, if good Kellen shows up, I think A&M wins this game probably by more than 7. But I think if good Bo Nix shows up and bad Kellen Mond shows up, I think Auburn wins this game. I think this game could go either way. This is easily my game of the week because of the significance for A&M. And you could even say the significance for Auburn, because if they lose this game, they might get rid of Gus. I mean, a lot of people have been talking about he's on the hot seat. I don't really know if he is, just because of his record against Alabama. I think that might just keep him his job. But I've got A&M winning because you, as Kellen Mond, you can't play worse than what you played last week. Like, it's probably impossible to play worse than he did last week. I think only his completions were 5 yards and less, and all the other ones were either dropped balls, I'll give him that, or just overthrown or underthrown. And so I've got A&M winning. I've got Kellen Mond playing a hell of a lot better than he did last week, which you need to have if you're an A&M fan, because the consistency is not looking good right now. You need to get it back if you want a chance at the playoffs. Auburn, I mean, they almost lost to Arkansas. They should have lost to Arkansas earlier in the year. They've improved a little bit, but A&M beat Auburn pretty handedly. The score didn't really reflect that. So I've got A&M winning this game as long as good Kellen Mond shows up, and it's the flip of a coin if he's going to show up. What do you think, Jake?
Geez. If you'd asked me this before last Saturday night, I would have said A&M's just going to beat the crap out of Auburn. Watching Auburn play against Alabama confirmed that. I thought A&M would just beat the crap out of Auburn. And then I saw A&M play LSU, and everything kind of changed for me on how this A&M team looks. I think this A&M defense, as I said earlier, is elite. I think the A&M defense will shut down the Auburn offense 100%. But if Kellen Mond, as you've been saying, doesn't show up, I don't know what the A&M offense is going to do. I mean, it's just like you said, the Auburn defense is going to stop the run. They're going to stop Isaiah Spiller. Now, Isaiah Spiller is still going to get probably over 100 yards rushing, which it's amazing that I can say the Auburn defense is going to stop him. He's still going to run for 100. I mean, that's just how good he is. But if Kellen Mond can't hit those 5-yard Drew Brees passes, I don't know what's going to happen, because A&M's just going to kind of stall out. I mean, this is just going to be a game of punts, honestly. The over-under's 49. If Kellen Mond doesn't show up, the over-under should be like 3. Like, I mean, I don't really see Auburn moving the ball that much. This might come down to who gets a pick six, who picks up a fumble and returns it for a touchdown. What special teams plays can be made in this game. I think Anais Smith might be one of the keys in this game just because of his punt returns and his kick returns. I don't know. If Kellen Mond doesn't show up, it's going to be a very, very interesting game to watch. And if Kellen Mond does show up, A&M's going to run over Auburn. They're going to make Auburn look like South Carolina, in my opinion. Just because, as I was saying, I think A&M has an elite defense. I don't think Bo Nix is going to be able to push the ball downfield very much. A&M has allowed 10 points in their last 8 quarters, and all 10 of them came in garbage time fourth quarters. So, I mean, I've got A&M winning. As you said, I think Kellen Mond will show up for this game. I'm praying that last game was just weather, and that's why he didn't play well. I mean, as I said earlier, 56 and sunny out in Alabama at 11 a.m. on Saturday. I mean, I think Kellen Mond shows up. I think that A&M puts up 31 points. I think they probably give up 7. So I've got A&M covering. I've got A&M winning pretty big, but it depends if Kellen Mond shows up. So
Yeah, I agree. And if you look at the other side of the ball, you got Auburn's offense. A&M is very similar to Auburn in the fact that they're going to stop the run and they're going to force the quarterback to make plays. That's why the Alabama score was so high, because their secondaries are pretty young. I'll give them that. And here's the thing about Auburn. They really only have one good wide receiver in Seth Williams. And the rest of their team is pretty average. The rest of their wide receivers are pretty average. Their running back is really good. He's really young. I really like him. But A&M's going to stop that run. He'll probably have 100 yards, kind of like Isaiah Spiller. But it's going to depend which quarterback shows up. If Bo Nix plays one of his best games, then they'll win. If Kellen Mond plays one of his best games, they'll win. If they both play at their best ability, I think probably Kellen Mond. I think A&M probably has that edge on Auburn's just team, talented wise, and
yeah, they just have more offensive weapons. They've got more playmakers on defense. If both quarterbacks show up, A&M will win this game. But it's like you said, who knows which quarterback's going to show up for either team.
Yeah, and so we've got A&M covering. I've got A&M covering. He's got A&M covering, but that's only if Kellen Mond shows up. We both have Alabama covering. I think we both have Wisconsin covering. And BYU, I've got them covering. You are kind of... Yeah. Okay.
Take the shots. 7-1-1 against the spread. Come on.
Anyways, okay. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell as well. Helps us out a lot. Comment any differing opinions you have. Do you think good Kellen shows up this weekend? I don't think he could get any worse from last weekend, so that's a plus. What do you think about Alabama? Do they run up the score like we say they will? Will they beat that 29.5 point spread? A lot of people have been saying it's free money. I happen to agree, so I bet on it. So yeah, thank y'all for tuning in and have a great day.